Steve Perry cancels his court case with Phil Brown. You remember Phil. Oh, yeah. We'll talk more about that coming right up and some more stuff. Stay tuned.
Three, two, one.
Hello, everybody. It's Gary Stuckey. Welcome back to another episode of Steve Perry News. And yes, Steve has decided to cancel the court case against Phil Brown, according to theblast.com and some other articles online. Steve has decided to settle it out of court. If you'll remember, Phil Brown was the guy. He was in Little Feat, and then right about the time Steve was releasing his album, he comes out and announces that he has some songs. He kind of misled some people, and he made it sound like Steve had just recorded the songs with him that year, and he got his manager to build things up online. She even contacted me last summer and was trying to get things started and saying that they were going to release these songs, and Steve never gave permission, so he took them to court. Had like this long list of things. There's about 5 things according to the law, and that Steve brought up, and it was charging against Phil and things like that. But I think rather than draw it out, it's been going on since last November in the case. Rather than draw it out, and let it go back and forth, and Steve has decided to settle out of court. But as you know, but back in early '91, though, Phil and Steve recorded some songs in Phil's garage, and it wasn't high quality. Steve really didn't want to release it, so and he's tried to keep that, from being released for all these years, and then like I said, suddenly when Steve comes back, and has this album Traces, of course Phil wants to jump on that bandwagon and ride his coattail of fame, and if he could get by with it, I guess he would try, right? But like I said, Phil and Steve have been in court since last November, so Steve decides to drop it. They're going to settle, and have a mediation outside of court. Probably what's going to happen. I think somebody was asking me, does that mean that Phil won the case? It doesn't mean Phil won. I'm sure that Steve is not going to allow his songs to be released. I mean, that was the whole purpose of the case, and I think he would eventually won this case. But I think that's the kind of guy that Steve is. He doesn't want to keep dragging this out and making it go on any further. At the same time, he didn't want to drag this Phil guy through any more mud, I guess, even though he might deserve it. My opinion, not Steve's. But anyway, so they're going to work it out. I think that Steve is probably going to give this Phil guy some money, to keep him from griping and things like that. I don't think the songs will be released, but if they are, I don't think it's something that Steve wants to happen. But I do think that Steve will probably give him some kind of settlement of money. I think that's all he really wanted in the first place, because I think he was like a struggling artist trying to survive, and it's hard out there, But trying to ride the coattails is not cool, and not getting permission. But that's different. That's up to Steve. But if Steve wants to do that, that's cool. So they're going to settle out of court. Court was supposed to go on June 25th, but he's decided to cancel. So I hope it works out and everything. But like I said, I think songs won't be released. But what I do think is Steve is making a way for some new music and maybe some other things. Maybe this tour announcement that we've been waiting for. There's something going on, people, for Steve not to want to drag this court case out any further. But we'll have to wait and see. And speaking of Steve, his song, still dropping, We're Still Here, is down this week to number 26, but still hanging in there. We can still call radio stations and let people know and stream this song. Keep that album going. And stream other songs too, of course, on the Traces album online on Spotify and things like that. And go check it out on YouTube. Make that video, the views go up to over 1 million, and do all that you can. But I'm sure we'll hear something very soon from Mr. Steve Perry. Hey, this is Gary Stuckey. Don't stop believing, everybody. God bless you.